Texas Rangers have won the 2023 World Series. So Jonesy is here so that we can close out what was a great 2023 MLB season. So let's get to it. This is Flashing the Leather.
Could just go full railroad and say, "That's baseball, baby," right in the cold open.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Flashing the Leather, and I'm going to keep that in the feed because that was hilarious.
Let's just go. Yeah.
Jonesy is coming here to take everything that we have done and bury it alive, kind of like The Undertaker last time. Remember last time you were here, we talked about the old Undertaker?
I like when it goes off the rails a little bit.
I mean, so for everybody that is eventually going to watch this, all 6 of you that is eventually going to watch this, I think that one of the funny parts about what we do that's different than what I think I do with other people is we generally have a good time because we're here. It's silly. It's not professional. And honestly, it's some of the more genuine content that I've put out because I feel like I am more myself. And so it's funny when you talk as the intro is playing, and I'm going to leave it exactly that way because it's great. Like, it's awesome. It's a great behind the scene to be like, I think we should railroad this whole thing. And people are going to be like, what in the hell was that? And I think that that's terrific.
It makes it fun. You got to keep it. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be myself on the show. So,
well, you have to be. So they always tell you, for anybody who is an aspiring podcaster or an aspiring content creator, they tell you to be maximum yourself, like ramped up to 11 for all of those. What was that movie? Spinal Tap.
Oh, Spinal
Tap. Yes, for all of you Spinal Tap fans out there, ramp it up to 11.
But it only goes up to 10.
Exactly, and that's the whole point.
Yeah,
is you're supposed to take whoever you are and be like a maximum character. But I think that's what's fun about what you and I do here every time we talk about baseball, because for a sport that I think many people casually, right, not baseball fans, I'm talking about casual, see it as boring. Yeah. I think you and I make it fun and funny because we take something that many people maybe can't relate to because they find the sport itself boring. I can tell you that people who don't watch baseball, who watch us, think it's funny. They think that we are entertaining. I think that's great.
If I can change one person's mind about baseball, they think it's boring and they think, oh, I didn't think about that before, then I've done my job.
Yes, you have definitely done your job, and you have done it well as the 2023 season is over. So as we are recording, we are about a week away from Thanksgiving. Somehow, man, we're a week away from Thanksgiving. I think the first time we recorded here was back in May. So this is the 5th episode that we have done together, and we've done some good work together, more specifically for all you people who love Shohei Ohtani. We said that they should trade him, and guess what? They should have, and they didn't. So we were right. Just pointing that out there. So the season is over.
Again, we were right again.
The season is over, and the Texas Rangers are World Series champions. First time, I believe, in 63 years that they are World Series champions, and I find that to be kind of awesome. A lot of the longest streaks in baseball have been broken at this point. I think there are some that are now taking over that mantle. I want to say the Seattle Mariners might be. The Padres are probably up there as well.
Twins?
Twins probably. Okay. Well, the Twins were in the 1990s.
Yeah.
So the Twins were 91.
Yeah. Okay, yep.
So I think there are fewer and fewer franchises that weren't created yesterday that haven't won a World Series.
Rays.
The Rays.
One of them. By the way, the Rangers is the old Washington Senators.
It is. Yeah. Now, don't tell the Washington Nationals that. However, yes, you are correct.
And when
in your baseball history,
in the Washington area, we should know that.
Yes. So the Rangers, I thought, were a cool story. And when I did some research, and I did an episode, 2 weeks ago of my own show, I did a monologue episode, and I talked about how the Rangers had started this build 2 years ago. From the free agency moves that they had made 2 years ago now, which didn't make sense in the moment. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, it is.
They lost, 110 games or 102 games or something like that 2 seasons ago. Laughing stock of baseball.
Yeah, the sad team.
Exactly. And now here we are 2 years later, and the pieces that they got, I mean, obviously with Simeon and Seager, who are both in the MVP conversation, which we're going to get to a little bit later. And obviously you add Jacob deGrom, who of course got hurt. And but a lot of young guys, right? And a lot of guys that when you sign them, Nathan Eovaldi to me is a perfect example of a guy that you sign and people say, huh? And he's your workhorse and the guy that you love in the postseason. He did it for the Red Sox.
Right.
Did it for the Rangers.
I love that.
I do too. And that I thought was the takeaway for the Rangers for me was that, number one, they were never going to be stopped in the postseason. They never looked weak, ever.
They didn't. The whole time they were dominant, and they showed how strong they were. I mean, right from the get-go. It was a really remarkable postseason run for them. Yep.
It really was. And then on the other side of that, you had the Diamondbacks, who 84-win team, barely made the playoffs. Like, if the Cubs can make one catch, the Diamondbacks don't win or don't get to the playoffs. But they get to the playoffs, and the whole point is you get in, and you never know what's going to happen. And with their core of young guys, right?
Make it to the World Series.
Zach Gallen, Corbin Carroll, they make it to the World Series, and they just run into a team that was playing better than every other team that made the postseason.
Yeah.
Period. That's all that I think you can say. I don't think it's an indictment on the Diamondbacks at all. The Rangers were going to win the World Series in hindsight.
And what about this matchup? A lot of people, and we haven't talked since the beginning of the postseason, but what about this matchup? We got Arizona and Texas. A lot of people hated it. They're like, well, it's bad for baseball. No, it's not. I enjoyed the matchup. I saw Arizona. Yeah, like some people thought they were a boring team, not worth watching, but they hustled.
Yes.
It was a young team,
It was.
very athletic team. And honestly, they made a great run, and good for them. They'll stick around with that team.
So you're skipping ahead a little bit to no. I think it's fine to talk about any time. So my stat was going to be that I believe this was the lowest rated World Series of all time.
Okay, yeah.
And I think that there's two ways to look at this. I think what you're speaking to is for baseball, right? I think baseball people love this. It doesn't matter to baseball people. If you're going to watch, which you were going to anyway, I was going to tune in anyway. Many people who would tune into this show were going to tune in, right? I think that it's fine. I don't think it really matters. But I think that for ratings, I don't know if it's fair to place the blame of the lowest ratings ever on these two teams, because you look at the data, it's been going down. And there's a myriad of reasons for that. Not all of them are baseball reasons either. Many of them are just, we in society don't do slow things anymore, which we're asking you to watch an hour-long show. I get that, but just bear with us. And so...
He'll make a clip for you.
Right. Yes. Go to the shorts reel. You'll find everything you want to do in like 10 seconds. But the matchup itself, for MLB's perspective in terms of ratings and getting eyes on the product, wasn't what they wanted, because I think baseball does want there to be more eyes on the product. But I do believe that for baseball people, this was fun, because this represents, or it could represent, the future of the game for the next few years. There certainly are a lot of young players on these teams that could help do that. And I think we're both kind of right in the sense that the matchup was good. It just sucks, though, for me, that the World Series wasn't more exciting. You know what I mean? Like,
Game 1 was exciting,
yes,
but it went into the 11th inning.
Yes.
I admittedly, I'm on the East Coast. I did not see that live. It was so late, and that shame on me, I guess. But I did.
Didn't either. Sorry,
but I did. I was following it when Seager tied it up.
Yes.
Can't even remember.
It was Adolis Garcia who won it, I believe.
Yeah.
In the 11th inning.
Yeah.
Now,
so that was exciting, and that kind of set the stage for Texas, really.
Yeah, it really did. But to be fair, though, Diamondbacks came back in Game 2.
They did.
And stole. So you kind of thought it was going to be a better series. And again, it's not the Diamondbacks being bad. It's the Rangers, I think, just had that it factor.
Yes.
And they were able to overcome a lot in the playoffs, including Max Scherzer, who, I hate to say it, man, shell of himself. Wasn't 100%, obviously.
He's been a shell.
Yeah.
It's been obvious. We've kind of brought it up very early in the season. As soon as he looks bad, it's not coming back. It's over.
No.
I think Texas used him appropriately. Honestly.
Oh yeah.
They gave him a shot to even start one of the games, but mostly he could be used in relief status, and if he can stick around doing relief stuff, I mean, that good for him, and then bow out and get his. I'm thinking he's a Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah.
Not
close.
He's a great talent, and it's a shame to see that stuff fall, but it's inevitable.
It is. He will be the first Curly W in the Hall of Fame. You can quote me on that.
Yeah, I love that.
Probably will be. So that's something to look forward to. But I think for me, for the Rangers, I think that the X factor was not even on the field. I think it was Bruce Bochy. I think that Bruce Bochy could now be regarded in the pantheon of best managers of all time. Maybe, and I'm not even a prisoner of the moment, because the World Series ended 2 weeks ago. Bruce Bochy is a 4-time World Series champion, retired, and came back with this team and got them to play selfless baseball and win a World Series. To me, that is the sign of a great coach.
I wish that could get more into what's going inside the manager's mind, because a lot of the fans, you can really only speculate what they're doing. But like you said at the beginning of the show, they were kind of a sad, sorry state of a team. Now, they did spend some money and got some pieces to support some of the young talent. That's what you need to do to set yourself up. But then it does take a solid coaching approach and managerial approach to get your team ready and then win. So yeah, hats off to Bruce Bochy and coming back and doing that. He outcoached many of the teams out on the field, and it's not just talent that makes it happen. So good for Texas and good for him. Really happy for him.
I think that Bruce Bochy is deserving of it. Now he's an old man now, but again, I think that for baseball, it's all sports, but analytics, number crunching has become so prevalent in professional sports. More specifically, NBA, NFL, and MLB. I don't know how much it matters in hockey per se, because I think hockey is a bit of a different sport. But in baseball, as you know, analytics drive free agency. They drive inning-to-inning moves, so many different things. And I think that that's all well and good. As a stat guy, as a numbers guy, I see the value. But I do believe that that's disgusting. I do believe that one thing that is missing in today's society in general is experience, knowing when the right move is or what the right move is. And I think that's where Bruce Bochy, winning all of those World Series, coaching all of those teams, Padres, Giants, Rangers, right? He loves the West divisions, obviously. And I think that experience matters. I really think it does, because I think that your team can buy into it. I think the younger coaches...
That's it, yes. The team can buy into it
100%.
With more experience. That's a good point.
Absolutely. And especially when you have some veteran guys who maybe have played for him or have been down that road. Corey Seager obviously has had postseason success.
So hot right now.
Right? Yeah, he is. He is very hot, to quote Jacobin Magatu from Zoolander.
Yes.
That's going to be in the video. So the Rangers, I think are great. I think they have a bright future, although some of their pieces, like Evaldi, who knows how long he can produce at that kind of level. But the younger guys, I think are going to be there. I think Simeon obviously is fantastic. What's going to hit all of these teams, the Rangers spend money, so it might not hit them, but free agency always does it, man, because these teams come with these big checkbooks, and you have to make a decision. But the Rangers have proven and shown that they will spend money. So I think that won't be an issue. The Diamondbacks, on the other hand, are not in that same boat, I think.
Well, I think that you're right. I think we'll see. It's a we'll see situation, right? I mean, the fans, did they show up?
Stay tuned.
I think I was seeing, and remember, I'm a Phillies fan, and there were tickets on sale in Arizona, and I think Phillies fans were trying to buy tickets in order for the stadium to be empty, which it's a bit of a shyster move, but I guess that's all as well. But I think the tickets were $100 or something, whereas in Philly they were much higher, obviously. But I mean, we'll see. Arizona, they have some pieces. Can they kind of fill the gaps with free agency and make a run? Who knows? But I think that you still have to deal with the Dodgers, who are looking a lot less strong now. But you have to look at your division and see what's possible and make a move.
We say a lot less strong as they have 2 of the 3 MVP candidates that are up for voting right now.
This year, they obviously were very tough to beat, but then they bowed out in the first round again.
Well, speaking of the postseason awards, they have been releasing them over time. I just want to say to everybody, and Jonesy and I talked about this before, it annoys the absolute hell out of me that all these leagues leak these things out over days. It doesn't need to be days. I just don't understand. I get it that you want to have content, but what else is there to say that Brandon Hyde won the Manager of the Year outside of, he deserved it, and moving on?
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
No, it's like every day. It's multiple days. Just make it one day. Just
drives me insane. It's like the college football playoff.
You can make it a show. You can make it a little show for MLB if they want to do something,
Well, they do that. That's my point, is they get all these analysts to talk about who won the Manager of the Year. And I'm like, thank you. Well, this person didn't. Well, only one person can win it. And Brandon Hyde of the Orioles. The Orioles were like the best team in the American League all season long, who, by the way, the Orioles had been stinky prior to the last 2 seasons, right?
Is that the biggest surprise for you? Would you say the Orioles, how dominant they were all year?
Yes.
All year. I mean, I thought they were going to run out of gas.
Yeah,
And they kept going.
And I think that when you talk about surprises, I think I had not given credence to the building that they had done in the farm system and how that had been cultivated the right way. And that's not an easy thing to do, right? Because the Astros, remember, they tanked in order to be good. But think about all the guys that they hit on to be good.
Yeah.
And that's not easy to do. Because baseball is really hard because unless you're like, even Bryce Harper was in single A and then moved up to double A, right? Many guys, they have tons of talent. Their ceiling is super high. But the grind of baseball is tough. There's no guarantee when you get drafted in baseball at all.
Nope.
Whereas NFL, NBA, you're starting right away. Your dream is realized right there. So baseball, I think, is different in that way because so rarely does a guy never goes right to the major leagues.
Very rare. You're right.
Needs to be some seasoning. And so for the Orioles to do that and do it to me so quietly, and maybe that's on me. So if somebody's going to be an Orioles fan, look, I'm not saying that the Orioles didn't deserve it. I'm just saying wasn't paying attention.
Look at their team talking about being seasoned. Rutschman. I mean, he came in as a rookie last year, and you're waiting for that sophomore slump. He ended up being a leader of the team. I couldn't imagine him leaving the team anymore and them being anywhere near as good as they were this year. Gunnar Henderson, who you're going to get to.
Rookie of the year.
Rookie of the year, but I didn't feel like he was mashing all year. He turned it on, and it just never came. The hype was there, and it's always fun when the hype's there, and then he exceeds the hype.
Yes.
That's just really fun. So good for Gunnar, and like those 2 pieces on the team were just hitting all year. I got a chance to go to one Orioles game this year near the end of the season. I got to see Rutschman hit a home run. And that, by the way, that stadium is just so fun.
It is.
The atmosphere is ridiculous.
It's top 5 still. Now, I will say I haven't been to every stadium nationally, but Camden Yards lives up to everything because it has an old feeling and it still feels like it was built recently. Because it's not old enough to have Fenway Park, Wrigley Field, all of those stadiums, even Yankee Stadium before it was demolished, which kind of makes me sad a little bit. They have earned and been grandfathered into having crappy facilities, if you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. Because they are historic. They're old. They're relics.
Yeah, like the Vet back in Philly.
Well, that was a different time because like all those cookie cutter stadiums, Riverfront, Three River, like, oh my goodness, but just plopping them all over the place.
Exactly.
Camden Yards broke that mold because it was built with actual character.
Yeah.
And it started the revolution of where we are now with stadiums. It's a total tangent, but it's worth it.
Yeah.
And I think stadiums now, though, struggle to capture what Camden Yards managed to capture.
The thing that blew me away was, okay, you're watching the game on TV, you see the field. What I had never seen was the little this little courseways underneath where you buy your food. It looked like an old-timey baseball park, which is really super charming. And then they sell like mass-produced hot dogs that are delicious. You pick it up. You don't have to wait. The lines move so quick.
Is it still
You're
SK?
just getting your food.
Is this like SK hot dogs, something like that? They're like super good.
I think so. You got your like, it's like an assembly line hot dogs, but it's delicious, and that's exactly what you want.
Yep.
You got your beer, you got your hot dog, you got your nachos, and it's like, everybody's moving so fast. Everybody's friendly. I had a blast.
Oh, absolutely.
A little bit of a segue here.
I will say, so hypocritical of me, I have not been to a live baseball game in years, and some of that has to do with just not getting there. But now that my son is going to be 4, I think we're getting to the point where we might be able to do a little combined trip where I can take him.
Sure.
And if your kids are there, I'll never see him again. So that'll be perfect.
Maybe
right?
we'll do one together.
Yes, we can
so
do.
We go to about 3 or 4 games a year.
I should do more. And so maybe that's hypocritical of me to be on a baseball podcast, but whatever. Who cares? Right?
Busy lives.
Yeah, who cares? So I agree with you, though, about the Orioles. And I think what it comes down to for me, the biggest surprises most of the time in sports are teams that I thought, or at least I feel like, were under-promising and over-delivered. I don't think unless you're a super
Yeah.
Orioles homer, I don't think anybody thought the Orioles were going to be that good. Not
I
even
don't think
you.
so, and you're right. I mean, yeah, under promising, over delivered. That's exactly what they were this year, all
A
year long.
plus. A plus.
Yep.
And it's a fun story. And I will say one of the great things about becoming a generalist in sports, for the most part, I mean, obviously I love my Red Sox and all that, but I love being able to get caught up in a great story. Like the Texas Rangers were a good story. The Diamondbacks were a good story. There were other great stories. The Marlins, by the way, Skip Schumacher. Manager of the year.
Yeah.
He deserved it, by the way. I know that a lot of people thought.
Oh, you think so?
I thought the Marlins.
He was good.
The Marlins.
Yeah.
I think that says everything. And think about this, though.
Marlins.
How many managers of the year have won from the Marlins? Remember, Joe Girardi got fired after winning manager of the year for the Marlins.
Oh, my gosh.
And I think
I didn't even know he was a Marlins manager.
I think it was like one season he won, and
season.
he got fired apparently because he said something to Jeffrey Loria while he was in the dugout, and Jeffrey said, "Well, you got to get rid of this guy." So that's how he got fired, and then he won manager of the year that year. But the reason I think Skip Schumacher,
what happened in the Houston Astros? Like some guy
like
got
that.
fired. Yeah,
it's always great. All these great. Yeah, I mean,
just said something wrong to the wrong person.
I mean,
one day.
there's like fist fights in the Senate right now. So I mean, there's fighting everywhere.
Sure,
You're gonna see that all over the place. But the reason I say that Skip Schumacher deserved it was because the Marlins, and I think your success is prefaced by all of the things that the organization has done for a while that have made it or been almost the antithesis of success. I think that's a fair criticism to say of the Marlins, because Jeter came in promising that they weren't going to just dump everybody, and they dumped everybody again.
I mean, as an NL East guy, I expect them to be at the bottom every year. I hope that they be at the bottom. And when they're not at the bottom, it's disruptive. And that's exactly what they are. They're just disrupting the status quo. And that's exactly the role that they need to be playing. And honestly, they come in and they play. And we talk about evolution of baseball a few times on this show throughout the year. Scrappy, athletic, small ball teams can have a place in this league.
Absolutely.
And that is what they can do. Now, they do have their guys who can crush. Soler, okay, good big piece for them if he can be on. They made an acquisition, a very good acquisition with Jake Berger from the White Sox. Good hitter. And then they have a bunch of scrappy young fast guys with Sandy. I think he's coming back, Alcantara, and a couple Jesus Luzardo. So they're a team that's going to be around next year, and Skip Schumacher definitely has their attention. They've got my attention now.
And that's why I think he deserved it, because talk about over-promising. But also, part of being a great manager, we talked about it with Bruce Bochy, Skip Schumacher could take this collection of pieces, which, again, collection of great pieces doesn't necessarily mean success. And the Marlins had a successful season when they made the postseason in 2020, but it was a shortened season, so it was a sprint rather than a marathon. And baseball, being a marathon that it is, allows the good teams to rise up, and the teams, like you said with the Orioles, thought they were going to fade a little bit, and they never did. To me, a team that you think is going to fade and does well is managing, because it takes a lot to get a team to perform consistently over 6 months, man. Like, it's a long season playing just about every day. There's not much of a break. And I thought that was really neat that they made it. And the Phillies unceremoniously booted their asses out of the playoffs, but it didn't take away how they got there.
No.
So
they did well, yeah. And the same with Arizona. I mean, I think Arizona had a different outcome. They made it further because they had the talent, but very, like I would say, a little bit of a similar makeup there, where they've got some pieces, a couple starting pitchers, a couple guys, and let's see what they can do next year.
And will the front office mess it up? Because Marlins.
And I've got the same question about the Orioles too. Because the front.
You and I both have it, man.
The owner.
You and I both have it. The Angelos family has not been trusted at all. So let's talk Cy Young. And we should mention that Corbin Carroll did win the Rookie of the Year. I don't know if that was obvious, but obviously he had a fantastic season. Led the Diamondbacks, was kind of one of the story pieces for that team. So
I heard he was half Taiwanese.
I think so. Yeah. Great player. Really fun to watch. So Cy Young, And the Cy Young is interesting to me because I believe for both sides, all of the pitchers that were up for each award, I don't think any of the teams made the playoffs, which is fascinating because you would think, I think it was the 6 players that were listed as finalists, if you consider that. Not one of them, I don't think, was on a playoff team. And the 2 guys that won it was not in a playoff team, which Garrett Cole, his first, Blake Snell, his second, because he won one a couple years back with the Tampa Bay Rays.
Mm-hmm.
So both guys had a fantastic season. Now, the Yankees season was an absolute dumpster fire. Garrett Cole was a bright spot in the dumpster fire, the whitest light in what was absolutely a trash fire. I love saying that too, by the way. And both New York teams were friggin' awful this year, and I'm here for it. And Brian Cashman's probably going to get fired.
I don't hate the Yankees as much as I used to because they're not as good as anymore.
But it's still,
I can be okay with that.
There's a satisfaction in seeing them have talent and not deliver.
You're a Red Sox fan as well, so
I am.
You might be.
No, but I've never hated them. It's more funny to me because you see this talent. Obviously, Judge's talent. Obviously, Stanton. They got the Cy Young winner, the reigning Cy Young winner now. Yeah. They're not lacking in big time talent, and they can't get it done.
Yeah,
and
that is nice to see.
And in the Boone era, things have consistently gone this way, downhill for everybody who's listening in audio, downhill. He continues to keep his job, and Brian Cashman continues to keep his job. We came here after the trade deadline and said that he was sleeping during the trade deadline again. And the fans are calling for his head. The fans are calling for Boone's head. I had a Yankees fan today tell me, he said, God willing, they'll both be fired. Imagine feeling that passionately, God willing.
Yeah.
invoking a deity to make sure that the manager and GM gets fired. A manager, and I mean, a GM who's who's been part of World Series champions. It's amazing to me because
are you talking about Cashman? I mean, he's been a failure. He's been mismanaging the team
for a while.
Yeah, for a while.
For a long while.
Yeah, Garrett Cole is a bright spot. Hats off to him. Did he pitch a complete game in his last game of the season? I saw that. Oh my gosh, I'm really glad that he did that, and he's been a leader of the team.
Yep.
And he took a lot of criticism for having like sticky stuff last year on his hand. As a fantasy baseball manager, I was skeptical I was skeptical he would even have that kind of year. So really impressed with the ability for him to have the ability to power through all season. And I like how you mentioned both of these pitchers did not make the playoffs. That's really kind of surprising because typically, historically, the Cy Young winner has always been kind of the guy who gets the most wins.
Yes, but also, generally speaking, when you have really that kind of a season,
how bad your teams are.
Well, so it comes down to like Blake Snell. If you were to take the Padres record when he pitched and look at their record when he didn't pitch, probably same thing with Garrett Cole, right? And it's fascinating because normally when you have a pitcher who pitches at that kind of a level, now keep in mind, the Padres and the Yankees both have spent massive amounts of money to have lots of talent around these guys.
Yeah.
So Garrett Cole, who they got in free agency, paid a lot of money for him. Blake Snell signed a big extension, I think.
Just signed Judge,
right?
By the way,
just signed Judge. So both of these guys are not lacking in talent, and you know what? They're the kind of guys. Now they won't do this, but I think Garrett Cole and Blake Snell could walk into spring training and look at the team and be like, "I wasn't the problem last year." And have the hardware and walk around with it because they weren't the problem.
Yeah.
But I think you're 100% right that is something that I wanted to point out because it's rare. It's rare. I mean, King Felix won. He was 11-11 or 13-13, but that was because the team was so bad, right? The team was so bad. So when you look at this and you think, wow, okay, Blake Snell.
Nice name pull.
Yeah, right? Felix Hernandez, who I swear played like 40 years in the major leagues and is still 17.
He looked like it at the end, too. He looked like overweight, but what was his
nickname? Like Miggy, you mean? Like
Miggy?
Like
Miggy, yeah. Like,
sorry.
What was that?
That was mean.
Well,
he was a shell of himself.
He had like the cornrows, too.
Yes.
That didn't help it.
No. King Felix was something else. I just remember when he came up and he was like 18 and just blowing guys away. Yeah. And I swear he was 18 for like 15 years.
What the heck was his nickname?
King Felix.
Oh, I thought it was like Big Cat. I'm
It
thinking
could have.
something
No, you
else.
think of Andres
No.
Galarraga?
Yeah.
Well, we can do nicknames another time. Off season, we can
That
do
would be a fun
great
one.
nickname. Big Cat, I like that one.
King Felix. Yeah, that
By
was
the way, speaking of nicknames, I did post something for you on Facebook, and it was the '95 Indians. And I said that it was the best team, probably one of the best teams to never win a World Series. And Jose Mesa was their closer. And I said, Joe Table. What a great nickname.
setting the table.
That's right that way. Hey. There you go.
There you go.
So now that leaves us with MVP, which I'm sure at some point while we're recording this, they will have it on here. So Ohtani, Seager, Simeon. Good Lord. Ohtani, Seager, Simeon. Say that again. In the AL, Acuna, Betts, Freeman are the three in the NL, who I think you could pick any one of those guys. I won't really have much of an argument, but I think if you're not going to pick Acuna, you better come with some real reasons why you're not going to pick him.
Personally, it's because I don't like the Braves.
You and your subjectivity.
But I mean, realistically,
I'm kidding.
Acuna mashed this year. But I think his true value on this race is his stolen bases.
Yes.
How many did he get? Like, was it
50?
So yeah, I think it was up there. Yeah, 50. I couldn't recall the exact number, but it was
a lot. Let's put it that way.
It was record-breaking territory in some respects
for those of us playing the home game.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been touched in a while.
No.
So anytime he got on first base, he's already able to get to second and possibly third very easily. Keeping him off the base paths is your key.
When's the last time you can think of a guy who was that dangerous? Because there were guys that were that dangerous.
On the base paths, like stealing bases?
Like, think about, guys that, when I say that dangerous, historically, guys that have been that kind of production in terms of stolen bases have been your leadoff guys. They haven't really been guys that you expect to hit for power, driving a bunch of runs. That's what makes Acuna
Mookie Betts for the Red Sox?
But Mookie Betts, to me, was never a guy that if he got on first base, he was guaranteed to get to second. Ichiro.
He did get 20.
Right?
Oh, Ichiro, yeah.
Ichiro for sure.
Ichiro, yeah. Good.
By the way, Ichiro can still match at 50.
Rookie of the year and MVP.
Yes,
I believe.
2001 on that Mariners team that nobody remembers because they got just ousted by the Yankees, who were in dynasty mode at that point. So I just think Acuna, for me, the stolen bases. I think because it's such an intriguing part of a game for a guy who, if you took that stat out, you look at the rest of it. I mean, he's with every other power hitter, right?
Still in it,
amazing. So when you take that, 50. I remember, I think one time in the summer, and I was like, wait a minute, did I read this? He's a 40-40 guy?
Yeah.
And you're like, yes. Like, when did I fall asleep and wake up and that was a thing? I totally missed that he was that incredible. He could have had more than 50.
The stolen bases kind of got by me. I wasn't following it that closely, but until I noticed in about August, I'm like, wait a minute, what the heck is going on? And then he could be a 40-40 player, and then I started paying attention, and that's when things started getting crazy in Atlanta, where they just started winning a game after game after game.
The clip in which
you couldn't
they were winning.
Stop them.
I know. So the MVP, though, I think that the committee will do anything that they can to give it to Ohtani because I think that
here we go.
And I just no. I just mean that, like, if there is a guy who casual people know, it's Shohei Ohtani. I think, right? Because I think what he's doing. And we've talked about this before, the love affair that I have with Shohei Ohtani's baseball game. And he is doing things that nobody's really done.
Yeah.
In a very long time. Very long time. And so I think that it's not a conspiracy that they're going to try to give it to him. But I think that if he's in the discussion, it's difficult not to give it to him because of that fact. Because people know who he is. Like Corey Seager, fantastic season. Simeon, great season. Casual people don't know who they are.
I feel like I want to see. I think all of us want to see him on camera, like getting the award, and him like breaking down and crying, like a Japanese player will,
and telling us he's not re-signing with the Angels.
Oh, but no, remember when he tore the UCL?
Yes,
and it was heartbreaking. Nobody could disagree with that. But and he was done, but he was still batting. I felt like he was still going for the MVP. He's like, I'm trying to do everything I can here. And I don't know. I disagreed with that right away. And we talked about that and covered that extensively. But, it almost like the amount of passion he has for the game, the fact that he pitched lights out this season and batted. I think he's actually a better batter this year.
Yes, I think he
So
was
much
too.
better. So yeah, I think he should be. And I've talked to people that are like, no, hands down, he is the best. And that's when that's it. And it didn't matter. And Corey Seager was second place at that time too. And it almost just didn't matter because the rarity of having those pitching stats. So
Yes. Again, I think now you're going to get into a territory with him if he continues this kind of production that you can't give it to him every year. But
right.
the when you and I recorded our episode about Mike Trout and about him,
Yeah.
we hit the YouTube algorithm because he was having at the time, and we didn't even realize it. It wasn't even planned. He was having a historic month of June. Remember, it was
Oh,
insane.
we're big Otani fans here. We're
100%.
really angry at the Angels, though.
Oh yeah, the
We hate the
Angels.
Angels.
No, a separating.
I
Otani.
want to like the Angels, but they mismanaged. It feels like every star player that they've ever had.
Oh, they at 100% have. But this is a good segue actually into the offseason because
hmm
he is clearly the free agent on the market.
Oh yeah.
And I want to talk. We last time I said we should bring this up now because there's sort of like a philosophical discussion to be had about how you spend money on him now because
hmm
the injury, the surgery has changed the calculus a little bit. And I don't say that again to say that he's not worth what we thought or projected,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
Now it's a
it's a calculation now.
it's a risk.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a calculation on risk.
Yes. And I think though,
hmm
as fans, like you and I were silly. We hijacked the opening, but we're trying to bring some kind of realistic perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can separate yourself in this case because Otani is not a Brave or whatever, although he's interested in the Braves.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I don't hate the Braves.
no, of
that
course not.
much. They're just the rival.
But now teams are ponying up dough, and let's conservatively say 5, 6, 7 teams maybe are going to be in the discussion to have the kind of money that it's probably going to
Yep.
take to sign him. And so out of those 6 or 7 teams, they have to realistically look at, are we signing the guy who played in June or
Yes.
are we signing Bryce Harper? And that
Good comparison. Yeah. Because he being a DH for over a year
because
with the UCL injury.
yes.
Yep.
And he is at a weird place age-wise because what is he, 28?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. I
Yeah,
think he's like
yeah.
28. So this is not going to be, I don't think this is not going to be some short-term contract, like some prove-it contract. He has to recognize, his people have to recognize, you need to go get your money now because it's never going to be hotter. Even with
Yeah.
this injury, it's never going to be hotter.
Get the 10-year, multi-year contract. And
Yes.
before, I think we were talking about, I don't know if we ever covered it, but I was thinking $50 million a year at least.
Oh, yeah.
Before
That's
the
why I think
injury.
I said 500 million. Like he has,
10
he
year,
has that
50
much
million. Yeah.
at stake.
Mm-hmm.
And John, realistically, like, are you in for your team signing him now? If the injury doesn't happen, 100%. But now,
Yeah, I mean, exactly. If you're an owner or fan, whatever, you're looking at this and saying, "Oh, okay, I can definitely get a bat, right? You can definitely get a bat, okay." And then that's the Bryce Harper comparison, who, hey, by the way, pretty dang good.
yeah, working out.
Not in the MVP top 3
No,
here,
but that's fine.
but he contributed immensely to the Phillies, and then was able to find a way to get into the defense with playing first base, by the way. So, and then it's like, well, will he pitch again? And that's what makes him special, is because he actually is a pretty darn good pitcher. Now, second Tommy John surgery's over. It went successfully without a hitch. Then there's going to be at least a year and then a ramp up. So he's not pitching next year.
Nope.
You're talking about 25 season now. And then how good will he be? You don't, that's the unknown as well. So I'm failing to think about who's had 2 Tommy John surgeries and has been good again. I'm sure there is a top pitcher that I can't think of, but it's possible.
Is it fair to say with Ohtani that teams that are in are valuing the hitting more than the pitching?
Ooh, you'd have to be. You'd have to be.
I think even before the injury, I'm saying just in general. Like what I know that pitching is very, very valuable,
Mhm.
but for him specifically, I think he's a better hitter than he is a pitcher. which is not to say that he's a bad pitcher at all.
Yeah.
But I think if you're going to go for broke in putting all your chips into one of his two skill sets,
Mm-hmm.
I think you're going to do it offensively and not pitching.
Yeah.
I think.
I'm wondering if he can play any other position. I'm wondering if he can do something on defense. I mean, of course, I want him on the mound because that's what he's good at. He's been doing it since he was, how old? Like 12?
Oh, yeah.
Even earlier, I'm sure. And I know that he's talked about in the past wanting to play until he's like 40. And he wants to win a World Series. He wants to win the MVP. Looks like he's about to do that. All these things he wants to check off the box. That's how much of a competitor he is. He just wants to achieve all these huge milestones, and he wants to play. He wants to win. He's extremely passionate. So and he's a brand. He's a brand. He brings something to your team. So say he goes to the Red Sox. I've actually heard that in the name of teams that could potentially because of Yoshida
That's
on
possible.
the team. So I think, and I don't think the Mets would be interested. I've kind of thought about that, but I really think he's going to end up on the Dodgers, even though that bothers me. But I think that's still the landing spot. But it's, then the Dodgers, they have no pitch. By the way, they're Julio Urias is gone. He's got that domestic violence situation. Kershaw looks like, he looks like he's done.
Yes.
They have nobody. And then so would they get Ohtani for that amount of dollars and then just say, well, we can't pitch him for what, $40-50 million a year, so they're stuck, and they're maybe they'll make a wild card next year.
Here's a team that I think now should have the balls to go get him. It's Texas Rangers. They just won a World Series.
Double down.
So there's no pressure now, right? No pressure in that it hasn't been so long because they've had some near misses. Remember, they went 2 years in a row, lost to Bruce Bochy, as a matter of fact, I believe in the Giants in 2010, I think.
Yeah.
And then that crazy World Series with David Freese in 2011. If they go in for him at that kind of money, again, they just won the World Series. And so
that's a great point.
It's not much of a risk. And I'm thinking about it from the fans' perspective because, fans always overreact to these things.
You mentioned Evaldi. I mean, he's got like 1 year left.
Yeah.
And he got injured at the end of the season, came through, but I don't know if he can repeat what he did last year.
Same thing in 2018 with the Red Sox. It was a magical run that was all meant to happen. Nathan Evaldi apparently is some lightning rod for if you want to win the World Series. Oh, and Will Smith too, by the way. Not the other one, but the guy who's won 3 World Series on 3 different teams, which is insane. So I think Ohtani to the Rangers, it's a team that he's been linked to. He wants to play for a contender, exact opposite of Mike Trout, at least from everything we've heard publicly. But we haven't actually heard from Shohei Ohtani. So I would love to see him win the award just to see what would happen. So we will get those awards out to you whenever they come out. I'm sure at some point today they're going to put them out.
But you've seen the Japanese players, when they win, they just break down and cry. And if you don't, it's like a show of disrespect. That's
yes.
I love that.
Me too. Speaking of showing signs of disrespect, you talk about Brian Cashman. I don't think the Yankees will be in on Ohtani. Probably because Brian Cashman is out here throwing shade at Giancarlo Stanton, which is fascinating.
Should be.
Because, yes and no, right? Yes and no.
I guess yes and no.
I think when the team stinks and you as the GM clearly have no wherewithal to realize that you are part of the problem and you're throwing your current players under the bus,
it's
not really great if you want to get guys to come to New York.
A little bit of a desperation.
Just saying.
Saving some face. Throwing, it's not me.
It's you.
This Mike.
It's a bold move. Let's put it that way.
It's Mike with 4K Stanton.
But here's the thing. He's not the most hated man in all of baseball. That award goes to the most unlikely person, and that is Craig Counsell. So Craig Counsell did something that I told you about, shouting through the window like the asshole neighbor that I am. And
that's right.
Craig Counsell, who was the manager of the Brewers, who I said was boring. I said that the Brewers were boring. My apologies to Milwaukee. You're no longer boring now. Craig Counsell jumps ship and goes to the Chicago Cubs and is the highest paid manager in Major League Baseball.
Right.
But what's amazing about it, and we'll see how I feel about post-production if I can put this on here, but man, let me tell you, the city of Milwaukee hates Craig Counsell now, to the point that somebody went to this Little League field, I think, that he has sponsored and like spray painted his name and crossed it out and just wrote ass on it. Like, that's the best we could do. It's the best we could do for a guy, Craig Counsell, who a great manager. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's not a great manager, but this is not like, I can't even think of a manager right now. Like, that's how I'm trying to think of like an all-time great manager, like that you would feel this way about. I mean, I get it. Okay. There's an emotional attachment because Craig Counsell is from the area and all that kind of stuff. The guy won World Series.
Oh, is he from Milwaukee?
Yeah, supposedly, yes.
Okay.
I get it. Okay. But this is professional baseball. Professional baseball. This is not Little League, man. He does not have some like contractual thing in which he has to stay with that team. The Cubs came to him and said, "We'll pay you a shitload of money to manage the team." He's like, "Yeah, I'll be there."
Exactly. How can you fault somebody for accepting a larger amount of money?
You and I would sign on the dotted line in a heartbeat if they were like, "Do you want to come here for like vastly more money? I'll see you right over there." And the Cubs, I get it. There's a rivalry and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was hilarious. But the thing is, though, is he's now the highest paid manager in baseball. And is that weird to you?
Very,
right?
Very weird. Yeah.
Because he's not up for manager of the year. At least I don't think that he was, or at least maybe he was, but didn't win the award. The Brewers have been good, but not good enough the last few years.
Yeah, we've mentioned it many times throughout the season. They're like winning and petering along. Oh, by
Sure.
the way, this division was very weak this year. Cardinals were
terrible.
Completely non-existent.
It was one of your first clips too, by the way, where you're like,
terrible.
"I'm so glad the Cardinals are bad," and you like looked in the camera and
They're
laughed.
so terrible. and that was another big surprise for me is how terrible they were again.
Franchise who's usually consistent was really bad.
Yeah,
really bad.
And the Cubs were making a run, and they showed that they want to win. Didn't make it. Cincinnati was kind of in the mix. They were all a little bit mediocre though, and so the Brewers were kind of the winner of the mediocre division. And not to say that the division is always mediocre and it's a great division, but this year they were, and good for Craig Counsell. He left a very boring, average team that won at a mediocre division.
I feel like that's going to stick to me now.
And now
like,
he's a part of the Cubs, which, I like the Cubs.
Next season.
See what they do.
Next season. Listen, okay, I'll do the Chris Russo thing. I will, okay? If the Brewers win the World Series next year, the next season when we continue this show, will have to wear a Brewers jersey every single time we record. I think that that's fair.
But I think we agreed that some of the Brewers jerseys were actually not bad.
Oh, as long as it's the pinstripe one, I'll wear it all day.
Yeah.
Yes, but I'm just saying, I feel like this is going to stick to me. Like at some point, this take is going to come out and bite me in the ass.
Let's see. How many likes can we get?
I didn't even say that they were bad. I just said that they don't move the needle for me and that they're boring. Craig Counsell, again, not a guy that moves the needle for me.
I can't explain it either. I agree with you. And like we've said, we're casual fans. We want to see these things, and like we're just casual fans. We don't understand the allure of the Brewers.
Man,
I'm not sure anybody does. This might be a running joke.
So if this was broadcast live in Milwaukee, it is no longer broadcast live.
We're probably everyone on that
in Milwaukee,
but hates us.
Let me tell you something. This thing that we've done for the last couple of months has been immensely fun, and it's not coming to an end permanently. It's just the baseball season is over. Many people are thinking about football and basketball and other sports, but baseball always comes back. Pitchers and catchers always report around my birthday in February, and so who knows? We could, find ourselves in the middle of January, jonesing for a little bit of baseball talk because free agency will still be happening. Long gone are the days where guys sign at Thanksgiving like they used to. A la Kurt Schilling, who I think signed with the Red Sox that Thanksgiving night. So John and I will be back to talk about this stuff, but I've had a good time with you. I told you this before. I'll tell it to you here on air that our interactions are some of the most genuine, and I have a lot of fun. Rarely do you just kind of strike lightning in a bottle chemistry-wise with this, but it's nice to talk about a sport, again, that sometimes is difficult to put a little pizzazz into. But I think we just proved today by alienating the entire Milwaukee County that we can do it just like the best of them.
Maybe
out
they'll
here.
change my mind,
Maybe they will. And that's the thing. Hope springs
Play
eternal.
with a chip on your shoulder, Milwaukee. You might earn our respect.
Hope springs eternal every single year. I can't think of a better way to go out than that. But before we do, we're going to hit you with some of the social media stuff. If you want to find anything that we're doing on INC Sports, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever the hell it's called. If you're watching on YouTube, hopefully you've subscribed. But if you want to listen to it in audio with all the other stuff that we do, Iceman and Coach, you can find it on Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. And if you are some of our audio listeners and you want to see our faces and see us laughing and see me clear my throat like a complete amateur, well, guess what? You can go to the YouTube page, INC Sports. So, of course, as here in the middle, Matt A.S. Media Network, all the other podcasts that we have, John will be back here at some point. He may even be back here with a shorter version of himself to talk about maybe some baseball cards. I do have all those baseball cards sitting up here that we need to go through. And so maybe there'll be a little reveal party and you have a champion 8-year-old in your home. So there are still a lot of baseball things that we could talk about. But for now,
that's right.
We're going to shut it down. So obviously, happy Thanksgiving or whatever you call it. Happy Turkey Day, whatever that you call it next week. Happy holidays to everybody. But John, do you have anything that you'd like to say to everybody before I assume this is your last appearance in the year of our Lord 2023?
Thank you, Matt. It has been a fun year. I'm glad to have shared it with you, and I share your sentiment on it having great chemistry, and it has been fun. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I hope this finds everybody well. Hope this finds everybody safe, and we will see you next year. This is Flashing the Leather.
That's baseball, baby.